This interview was made possible by our friends at My Corporation. Visit mycorporation.com, online incorporation, LLC, and trademark services. Hey guys, it's Mike Sullivan. Thanks for joining us again today on mo.com, where we feature small business owners and entrepreneurs and bring you hints, tips, insights, and perspectives on what it takes to be successful. Joining us today is Brian Kent. He's the co-founder of Flip.to. Flip.to is a startup helping the travel industry make more money by becoming more social. This company started about 12 months back and is fully self-funded. Brian, thanks for joining us today. And to give us a little background, could you just tell us how you got your start?
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Went through engineering school. After that, was roped into finance industry, which is a pretty common, I guess, problem, some might say, in New York City. A lot of engineers and smart folks tend to go into the finance industry, which is, again, good and bad. While in there, I actually met my business partner, Gil. We were working for a private equity firm at the time, and it was, your typical story, kind of unhappy, looking for other things to do. And after an office reshuffling, we ended up sitting right next to each other. Our offices were, right next to each other in sort of a U-shaped area, which was kind of left to ourselves. So we just started to, brainstorm, think through things that we wanted to do. And that was about 5 years ago. So we just took the plunge, left, and started building our first product while we were building up our consulting business, which is Novologies. And that's basically how we fund the products. I mean, we're a web startup with a consulting firm attached, so we can bootstrap the stuff that we're working on, the stuff that we really want to do, I guess.
Great. Okay. Tell me more about Flip.to.
Yeah, well, we launched Flip.to about a year ago. What it is a service for hotels, restaurants, airlines to turn their guests into advocates, to get them to spread the word about their upcoming trip, to help boost brand awareness and get the word out there on their social networks. And this is hugely valuable, especially for boutique hotels, turn their guests into what effectively is an extension of their marketing force. And those are the best people that you really want to learn from anyway, right? I mean, I'd rather hear from my friend about a new hotel or a boutique hotel that they're staying at than from an ad on the side of Google or something like that, because it's more trusted. You kind of figure that your friend did the research first and kind of vetted the place before you go there.
Flip.to was self-funded. Does that just mean you were able to keep the startup costs low?
Well, it's a combination of things, but I guess one of the most important things is that we actually make money, which is kind of unique now in the startup world, I guess, to some degree. It's primarily focused on getting engagement up, raising your number of users, and figuring out the business model later on. I guess we're a little bit more traditional in that sense, in that we think about that business model first. And if there's one's not there, we don't really go set out and hope that one magically appears. So we actually made money from day one. Our very first client, our very first beta client was paying. So they pay a monthly subscription, and that's how we help self-fund it. And it's really a good way to go. I'd recommend it more startups to try to figure out how to make money from the get-go, as opposed to going on that cycle, that treadmill of raising money. Because once you start, you can't get off. And it's also the type of person who usually starts companies or is an entrepreneur, doesn't really want a boss, kind of wants to have full control over their vision. And once you start raising money, you start to have a few more bosses than what you had previously.
You're the co-founder of Flip.to, which means you have a partner. So how does that compare, do you think, to starting a business on your own? What benefits do you think you gain from a partner?
I can't imagine launching on my own. I mean, it's tough. I mean, startups are a tough thing. It's a really tough game. For one thing, there's that roller coaster that I'm pretty confident that every entrepreneur faces. Like anyone who's launched something, there's that roller coaster of ups and downs. And I'm not talking about month to month, or I'm talking day by day, where you feel like you're killing it one day. The next day, you wake up in the middle of the night thinking, what the hell am I doing? I'm out of my mind thinking I can pull this off. This is too big. I should go get a real job or something like that. So it's helpful having someone else there so that you can talk to, you can argue with, you can bounce ideas off of. Um, so I think I would definitely recommend having a co-founder. And there's obviously when you have two people, there's loads more that you can accomplish. You have larger networks, so there's just lots of benefits. I mean, I don't think should dissuade someone from launching by themselves. So you have an idea, you can build it yourself. But I think you should definitely have someone else there that you can work with, and it's probably a good idea to also have someone with a big share, someone who's as committed. I know there's founders where you have one founder who has the largest chunk because he may be the first founder or something, then someone else who has a small chunk. I think obviously incentives aren't as aligned as they should be. You kind of need everyone going full force, full steam ahead.
Tell me about your growth over the past 12 months and how you've been able to spread the word about Flip.to so quickly.
Yeah. Well, we launched, I guess, the end of first quarter last year. So it's been about 12 months, maybe 13, 14 now. And we started with, again, that idea of finding paying customers so that we can grow this. And before we even finished the product, before it was fully baked and out the door, we started talking to people, telling people what we were up to, getting feedback as we were building it. And even before we finished the product, we had already landed that client. And the way we did that was we actually reached out to some established vets in the industry. And one of them actually became our leading proponent. He started talking about us. He really loved what we were doing. And he helped us land that first client. And this is a big deal. I mean, this is probably the biggest hurdle for most products, right? It's when you have absolutely nothing, right? You have maybe even just the glimmer of a product. You don't even know what it's going to be. You don't know what it's going to grow up to be. And you have zero customers. So you got to get in the door. And then once you get in the door, you got to, get someone, excited about it or make such a compelling pitch that they're going to jump on board, even though you have no track record. And we did that by getting people established in the hospitality industry and the hotel industry excited about it. And this leading proponent of ours is actually now our VP of business development. So he helped us land that first client, and that was sort of the start of it. And that was a boutique hotel in Chicago. And since then, actually, about a month or two ago, that first client is actually owned by, that first hotel was owned by a hospitality management group. And there are other 12 or 13 hotels that have come on board since then. So that's been a pretty strong affirmation of what we're doing. And so once we sort of got past that initial inertia, and you're sort of constantly fighting that initial inertia, right? Even once you get one, it's still a struggle to get two, and then it's three, then four. But once you're moving, you can sort of play off the other customers. You could tell them that we have customers, we have traction, and now we have results. And results make it, a lot easier. So you can talk about what you're doing, and you can talk about what you've done. So that's been huge for us. And how do we spread the word? Well, people are sort of looking for this. I mean, we've written a lot of articles, a lot of posts, a lot of blogs, reaching out to a lot of folks directly, and using a lot of third parties who, really support what we're doing, making referrals.
What closing words do you have for others out there who are considering starting an online business?
Think it through. Make sure that, it's something that you want to do both professionally and personally. I mean, running a startup is very much, I guess, it's a little cliche, but it's kind of like a lifestyle, right? I mean, it's not something that you can expect to go, 9 to 5, and that's going to be it. When you start something like this, it's going to really, take over your life, at least in the early stages. And maybe even in the later stages, I have no idea. Maybe it's forever. But, you got to make sure you think it through. If you have a family, you have to consider that. If you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, you should talk to them. Make sure they know what you're getting into. Because like I said, I mean, it's really time consuming and it's a roller coaster. So there's going to be times when, you think you're doing really well. There's times when you think you're crazy, and there's lots in between. So I think you should really think it through. In terms of, aside from the sort of the personal aspects of a startup, I think you should. One of the most important things I think you should do whenever you're launching a product is making sure that you're going out there and talking to people, making sure you're getting validation that what you're doing makes sense and is right, and that people will want it and will pay for it. It's pretty easy to coddle an idea. You have an idea in your head, you really love it, you're going to whiteboard it to death, you're going to try to think it through. Make sure it's absolutely perfect. Craft it, constantly craft it, right? And there's actually a good video out there by Z Frank called Brain Crack. You can just go watch that. He explains it better than me. But the idea is, you'll coddle this idea and you'll never get it out there, and it sort of feels good to keep thinking about it and knowing that, if I ever get to building this thing, it's going to be huge. But that's like the absolute worst thing you can do. You need to get it out there, talk to people, and you'll find that what your initial idea was. It could be a variation of it. That's what people were really drawn to, or people didn't like it at all. So you need to get out there, start building, roll out, and see what people think. Now, the one caveat I would say, which is something that you hear a lot now, is that you should be embarrassed by your first iteration of your product, and it doesn't really matter. Just get it out there. I would say. Make sure you have something that's half decent. Don't just get out, a complete, steaming pile of what, because first impressions do matter. I mean, especially in our business, like in the hospitality industry. I mean, people want to see something that's somewhat polished. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be feature complete, but it can't look like you're, a total amateur, or this is something that, it seems like it's really far off to becoming a polished product, because people don't really understand that. The difference between back end and front end. If they see a front end that looks, kind of junky and hacked together, you could have the most brilliant back end, and you can say, well, we're just styling it, and it's, it takes us 2 days to fix. They don't get it. They don't understand that. So make sure you have something that people will realize that you're a credible company, and this is sort of the first iteration of it. And again, once you have that, though, do get it out there, talk to people, and figure out how to make money.